can to hit that top 6. But we will launch ourselves into draft as Kalista immediately taken off the board for BDS. I'm still imagining we'll see things like the Gnar and these kind of picks banned away on the red side. They're kind of becoming the bog standard. Probably Maokai next as well for G2.
Yeah, no real surprise that the Parus gets taken away by G2. Those two AD carries, the two strongest AD carries on the patch right now, at least in professional play. Rel removed by BDS is a little surprising. I think Labrov has more than just the Rel in his toolkit. His Nautilus, his Nico, his Leona, like, there's tons of engaged support, so seeing Rel banned out so early isn't something we too commonly have to witness. Jace taken away by G2. They have banned this out, I think, in about 87% of their games, 71% of their games so far, so continuing along that trend.
Yeah, I think as well, for the Labrov point, I think he's been looking pretty strong over the last couple of series that they played as well. Yep. Like the Heretics and Rogue series, he was crucial in like roaming around the map, and it wasn't just on things like the Rel. So maybe it's just putting the fear of God into a lot of players, where he feels like he kind of pops up anywhere on the map at this stage. But we'll have to see his Rumble. Ivern going to be the last ones. Azir still very strong. Gnar still very strong. Ezreal also a pick if you want to try and go for it, but as we said, I kind of leaned away from that as of late.
Maokai's still up, Sejuani's still up, Yone's still up. There's so many power picks left up by this first phase of bans. With the two less than conventional bans of the Ivern and the Rel, you get towards those power picks later into the draft. Maokai is going to be the first lock though for BDS. They'll take a tree. I did wonder with the Rel ban whether BDS were going to look towards something that was shield reliant, because of course Rel with the Shattering Strike can get through some of those shields, but then they banned out Ivern themselves. So perhaps they're just a little bit afraid of Labrov's Rel and what it gives G2. Taliyah the lock-in for G2. SkewMond's going to hover Nunu. He will not pick it, but instead Mundo is locked in. Can be jungle. We've seen SkewMond on that a couple of times. Can of course go to the top lane.
I think it is going to be jungle, but I think it's the same idea what we saw with Desire. It's like, hey, you can't actually CC me. So that ultimate's coming through. I can block that initial Maokai ultimate, set up that nice safe conga line for my team, and then we can slow marching order back in towards BDS. So we'll have to see if that is going to be the game plan. But on the upside, I think going for some sort of AD mid could work out here. Yone, as you said, is already still up and available. I think that could be something huge for Nuke, but going towards the Tristana is still a flex, but I imagine that he's going in towards Nuke, and it's something that he has liked playing thus far over the split, but especially when you're trying to play aggressive against Taliyah, trying to manage that jump can be a little tough. Yeah,
it's definitely something we've seen from Nuke in the past. I don't think BDS have actually brought it out yet this split, but I agree with you that Nuke and that Tristana mid is a very, very common pairing. Gnar picked for the top side, so could of course be Tristana going down towards bot lane. It's seen a lot in solo queue at the moment, very aggressive, very powerful early on, but at the moment, if I look at BDS's comp, I really feel it lacks magic damage. So unless they're putting a mage down in bot, maybe the Trist is going to be flex.
Especially since I think we're either getting the Yone or the Yasuo as an answer into that Gnar in the top lane. It will be the Yasuo, so this is something BB's brought out pretty regularly into that Gnar, and looking to bring it out at the forefront once again. You've already got that pop-up with the flick from the Taliyah in the mid lane as well. So I think G2 already kind of setting up for a little bit of a wombo combo, but good sidelining along with it. So BDS, I think we'll have to find things that can respond well to it. So I think at this point, having something that's a bit more push-focused, I think, in the mid lane for Ice could work out. Like, Tristana can still do a lot of that pressure, but it just feels like at the moment that if you end up putting this Tristana bot, it's a ton of activity and pressure that you're trying to put in towards getting Ice ahead, whereas now you've got a really good matchup in an isolated position for BrokenBlade on the top side.
Yeah, he's brought out that Yasuo 7 times in the past. 4 of those have been into the Gnar, a couple of them into Zeus's Twisted Fate as well, back year before last at Worlds. Has only lost 1 of his games on Yasuo, has BrokenBlade, very happy on the champion, 87.5% win rate on it. So now we move into the second set of picks and bans. Braum and MF taken away by G2 and BDS respectively. There's the Poppy ban, which makes a lot of sense when you're playing a Yasuo. You really don't want to have to deal with that from the support role.
Yeah, I think for G2, they're pretty happy to just round out their composition with something like an Ashe, and they can even go towards something like a Kai'Sa, since you do have at least some dive already set up in the Yasuo. And I imagine Leona, Alistair, kind of things that you're going to be on up as well, just to try and set up those fights now as G2. But I think nice call by BDS to get rid of the Alistair. It's kind of the last big AoE CC to set up for that Yasuo?
I think Rakan's the other one that I would look at.
Yeah.
It's not the best primary engage, but it does still give you a lot. And when you have a Mundo, you can actually really easily use him as the taxi to get onto that backline. Often that's what Rakan is looking for. Someone that can engage primarily, and then he can jump on top of them, follow up with his engage. But it actually is going to be the Nautilus instead. Does have a bunch of knockups in his kit. Dredgeline has a slight displacement. Depth charge, obviously, a massive knockup that knocks up everyone it goes through. So now BDS, we will see the mystery of the Tristana resolve.
Yeah, I think it would just be Jhin Leona here. Ice has kind of fallen back towards the Jhin quite regularly, and the Jhin Leona gives you a very strong bot lane to try and play through if you want to. Although Leona, again, can pair very well with the Tristana for just giving you that kill pressure, but I think this is a Tristana mid for nuke.
Yeah.
I don't know what you try and answer for in the mid lane without it.
I 100% understand that logic, right? The only reason I'm looking at as possible Tristana flex is the lack of magic damage. And obviously,
yes,
Maokai, you can go Liandry's Bloodletter's Curse to give yourself a little bit of magic damage there as well, but the saplings have been heavily nerfed from where they were in the old days, where you could just spam them out and do a huge amount of DPS.
Yeah, I think the lack of oh, okay.
There we
Ooh.
are. We were looking for some magic damage. Ziggs would fit that role, and it is locked for BDS. I'll have a quick mosey through Ice's
I feel
history.
like he played it last year.
I feel like he did as well. I don't think it was something we saw too commonly. He has a 0% win rate on it, has played it once, and it was in season finals last year against Fnatic.
Okay, so, I mean, it is something that gives you a lot of push. You've now got a lot of push in mid, and this was back last year, actually around just before MSI, one of my favorite combos to watch for how you move around the map, because if you get the Ziggs and the Tristana in the same lane at any point in time, you just blow open a tower immediately.
Demolish into satchel charge.
Exactly,
so strong.
and it's when you've got so many objectives that are on the map, if you can use these two together to cross map, I think that's where BDS will get the best function. Otherwise, for G2, like, you have a lot of people that are kind of this point and click murder someone. So for someone like a Ziggs who wants to play far back, having this point and click death charge into the Yasuo, setting up with the Kai'Sa, is going to let Ice have a little bit of pressure this game on his head. Yeah,
we'll see how well he can avoid that pressure. I do like the fact that BDS are looking towards a comp that plays through map movements, that plays through macro, because that's what G2 have been so good at, especially the Spring Split. They've been very good at either finding pressure in their lanes and then utilizing that to get plates, or if they're feeling pressured in their lanes, getting the lane swaps out, moving around the map, making sure the enemy team doesn't have a way to react.
Yeah, and I think this is where G2 have just become one of the... It has kind of always been their bread and butter to have this incredible map movement, but it just feels like their early game is taking another step up when it comes with that. Just the ability to so succinctly get these early leads, carry them through very effectively into the later portions of the game. And it's going to be on BDS, who have been struggling to now try and find a way to break that.
Great to see all the fan signs out in action today. Saw some T1 fans there, some caps as well, which is very kind of them. I was thinking of a joke about how Caps wants Raw swap to AD carry, and maybe that would fix T1's issues, but perhaps we shouldn't go down that route right now as we jump into the match of the week. BDS versus G2.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Sorry, I needed to wait for the clip to end before I could speak again.
Sorry.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Are G2 going to smash, or are they going to Gumaluzi?
You can't just do that.
That's the question.
That is Diablo.
Okay, so
we're both getting fired. Now, if we can get into the game.
Lots of TPs for BDS, which is something you often see with the Ziggs bot lane. He is running Arcane Comet. When he gets his Lost Chapter, he'll be able to push out that wave really easily, which means G2 won't be able to have as much pressure on the tower as they would like. The question is whether they can pressure the Ziggs out of the lane early, get that teleport burnt, and then start moving around the maps themselves. Parus is going to try and stop that, obviously, but one of the great things about Nautilus is if the Leona ever Zenith blades forwards, you can hook her out of that. So it becomes a lot harder for him to get on Hunt Summon.
The biggest problem with this matchup, though, is that because Kai'Sa is so short range, she has to be in range of the back creeps to try and hit her own minions. And oftentimes that's how Ziggs will end up getting these extra Q shots on you, because he just hits the back wave, and that splash damage can do a ton of work, especially with the Arcane Comet. And in this sort of situation, I think Ice, if he can stay in lane long enough, you can go for that kind of Lost Chapter into then TP back, and you're suddenly so strong in this lane. So I'd imagine that's what Ice is going to try and play for. We do see a lot of people back for the tier, but I honestly, like, this is also coming a little bit of Ox knowledge over in the LCK, but he was always kind of like, look, you don't really need the tier in an awful lot of situations. The Archangel Staff, you're so safe at the later portion of the game, you don't really need the shield, but also then you have enough mana in general with just the Lost Chapter.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. You see Ice getting hooked there by Labrov. Level 2 hit first for Hansama and Labrov, and Parus steps in the way of the Void Seeker. Both the junglers likely just to do full clears to start us off, but you can see how much quicker the Mundo is at clearing his jungle than the Maokai on that first rotation. SkewMond has already finished his 4th camp and is working on his 5th, while we see 113 just walking over to his Razor Beaks. Jump forward hit by Nuke, but that's the risk. Of course, the Unraveled Earth into the Seismic Shove combination from Caps means that Nuke is stunned mid-air.
It does mean, though, that because he just used that boulder toss, there wasn't really any answer, right? Yep. So you actually do end up with a winning trade there, and as long as Nuke can find those moments, he's in a great spot. And this is where I think you can get a little difficult for the Taliyah in this matchup if you're trying to keep Nuke in the lane, because he can just shove that lane so effectively with E splash damage, and then you have to use your Q to try and answer for it, and that's those windows where Nuke can try and trade effectively.
He'll go in once again. There's the stun, Seismic Shove, knocks him back, but he still gets the explosive charge down and manages to chunk out Caps' HP. Irrelevant. It's a possible dive here as BrokenBlade has got this cannon wave in underneath the tower. SkewMond's going to tank it first. Irrelevant jumps away. SkewMond flashes to the edge of tower range, and BrokenBlade isn't tanking the tower yet. Irrelevant flashes himself. BB could look for this, but could also just go for the plate. He might almost die here to Irrelevant. Has to flash away. Was thinking about the kill so much, he didn't really notice his health bar falling. Sampled him down from 113 as Caps has jumped on, and Nuke just Goomba stomps him.
Well played by Nuke, buffering the jump forward so he could get the auto attack off and ends up getting that damage. Really well played, and also then for Irrelevant in that top side, managed to get away. I was trying to see when his hop was back up to see if he could have followed BrokenBlade with the jump forward, but across the board, BDS avoiding the damage and putting the hurt onto G2.
Yeah, really good stuff from Nuke overall to get that first blood in the mid lane. A solo kill for him. Obviously, SkewMond was, 113 was just around the corner, so the Caps knew he was likely to be dived soon anyway. But Nuke was able to finish him off before that dive had to materialize. On the rest of the map, Honor's basically even, as 14 gold between the top laners, 15 between the AD carries, 19 between the supports. I know that's what everyone really likes to focus on, but overall, BDS have a very solid start to this game.
Yeah, and then I think you're also going to end up in a decent spot now for bot lane. Ice and Parus faked the reset, so then they could stay around for the extra wave, so they're now going to crash that. You end up losing that CS as Hansama, whereas I think Ice is going to back now, get that lost chapter, TP back into lane, and then immediately be set up to continuously punishing Hansama. So there you go. Yeah, really nice play by the BDS bot lane, and I think this is where you kind of see teams who have picked up Ziggs versus teams that have kind of just practiced a lot with Ziggs and understand kind of these spikes, because now at level 5 you have a lot of kill pressure in this lane.
Labrov was spotted on vision. He's comes across here. It's really just to allow Caps to get this wave in an okay spot. Nuke knows he's not going to die. That's why he's not burning the flash, not buffering out that rocket jump. He is fine and dandy, allowing Labrov just to get that tickle of damage down in the mid lane.
So Ice actually held on to his CP in the bottom side. So this to me says that they're going to try and play around void grubs, because oftentimes when you have a Ziggs, one of the things you can do is try and use that TP to always have pressure on the void grubs when they spawn. So I imagine G2 will kind of use that and just say, hey, we're just going to match then, going for Dragon. But 113 kind of in the position, SkewMond's on the way, but you don't have that push on bot side because Ice has walked back to lane, and that push from Hansam was already there.
BrokenBlade did keep his TP in the top side as well, so he could teleport down here. Nuke is looking for Caps. He'll jump in, needs the knockback with the buster shot. The flash twist in advance as well. The follow-up. Caps is clapped for the second time this game, and BDS will take the Drake as well. Nuke is on an absolute tear.
Nuke is styling on them. This is sick. And kind of a little bit of criticism about the leverage at Nuke over the last little while, saying he just hasn't felt like his old self, but on the Tristana, he's popping off. SkewMond now going to try and move up to get at least a Void Grub for himself, but 113 going to start walking up there. How quickly can he do a second one? No smite available. It looks like 113 should be able to force him off of this before he takes it.
Yeah, he'll manage to do it. SkewMond doesn't get the second one, and now Irrelevant's coming in from the side. Use the wallop burst into the Gnar to get rid of that spell shield. SkewMond can heal up a little bit, but the Heart Zapper shouldn't keep him healthy for long enough. Pops the ultimate though. He gets 6 from taking a club and walks out with the maximum dosage.
That was so well played by SkewMond. Getting the heals, then getting the level 6 off of his, sealing away the cramp with that smite. And now it's all fine. Irrelevant also doesn't have that ultimate available in the minion arm form. BB with the knock up, looking for it, doesn't quite get it. Irrelevant able to hop away out of that one. So nicely played thus far by G2 to try and answer for the play, but I still think you've got issues, you know. Your mid lane, very strong for a nuke at the moment. That's going to start to bleed out elsewhere on the map, and you can see Labrov trying to move up here to help out Caps, but I think in this sort of place, as long as BDS can keep these pushes up, get access to the towers, and play through strong lanes, they're in an okay position.
Yeah, they should be okay. For BDS, it's a really strong start to the game, though, and Nuke having a Stormer for the first 7 minutes or so of this matchup. You can see Hansama up towards the top side. I should be able to answer that. Has double amplifying tomes alongside that Lost Chapter now.
But this is where G2 is starting to get up to the Rogue games. Like, we saw this in the Rogue series a lot, which is when they end up in a position where they have a losing bot lane, they start to swap their lanes very quickly around the map. Oh, we got the all-in, but Caps managed to avoid.
Seismic's just short, though. Labrov trying to come in from the side. Nature's Grasp out from 113. Should just clip Labrov's. Caps able to stand to the side of it. Labrov down to 100 HP and knocked back with the Buster Shot. The Ignite will take his life. SkewMond trying to turn it around, but no real follow-up from the rest of G2. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, BrokenBlade jumping onto Irrelevant, who gets the wallop and lands a house in the face of BB, and BB has to flash away again. Irrelevant has a flash of his own, with the house not quite connecting. I think Irrelevant will call off the chase.
Irrelevant going to be happy that he got the flash, though. Hansam also shifted down from that top side to try and make that play on mid happen, but again, it's BDS playing around Nuke, coming out on top time and again here. So this is where the Tristana just becomes a serious menace. Like, Caps is just going to struggle to hold the lane against them. You can see BF Sword now alongside the Slingshot. I don't think Caps can really clear the waves as effectively as they'd like to, and if you get access further and further to this tower, it's just going to be such a difficult play for G2 to hold on.
Definitely is. Ice still clearing out the lanes, the waves towards this top side. You can see G2 unable to get those signature plates that they usually get throughout the first 14 minutes of the game. Only one picked up. That was from BrokenBlade and that dive on the top lane.
And that's what I was going to say, is that like G2 tend to go for these map movements where they rotate Hansam and Labrov around when they end up in positions that they're not particularly happy with their bot lane. But in this sort of position where Ice has the TP, it becomes very difficult to put the all-in.
Blade. Satchel Charge will get the knockback. Explosive Minefield. Killer Instinct has to come out from Hansama to get that little bit of a shield and dodge the Mega Inferno bomb.
Yeah, but Ice still out of mana, so Hansama can kind of stick around in this lane now to keep up that pressure and continue to see if he can get another one relevant. Needs to be a little careful here. Wants that tower place.
He's looking forward. SkewMond land the cleaver, get the slow. Chase continues. There's the Gnar into the wallop once again, making sure he buffers both bits of CC to get the stun onto the Mundo.
Yeah, he also saw Caps on the way down, so Irrelevant kind of rightly being a bit perturbed as to what might be coming his direction.
No flash. Nature's Grasp again. Nuke just jumping forward, and Caps is going to get rooted up here. Seismic Shot will get the knockback onto Nuke, but with the Twisted Advance follow-up, the Buster Shot not enough to kill off Caps. In fact, it wasn't even used. It's just the Bramble Smash from 113. He continues to chase. Caps living on 7 HP somehow. Nuke very hungry for blood. He gets another auto. 43 is where Caps walks away. SkewMond able to dodge away from Nuke as well. In the end, G2 get their first kill of the game, and Caps survives on a sliver.
That's heartbreaking for 113. I thought he had that kill, but 7 HP is all that's left standing. Labrov sticking around underneath the tower, so then if that explosive shot goes off, it will be Nuke who ends up tanking the tower, but Caps just about getting out on that one.
You can see BDS's mindset is camp Caps. 113 set up here, knows that Caps doesn't have the flash, so just immediately goes for that Nature's Grasp. They jump in, but they just can't kill him.
Yeah, it's the going forward here by 113 gives Labrov access to Nuke. Him now being pushed out of the fight means that he can't really follow up towards Caps because SkewMond can turn on to him. And Caps, those heals, crucial. Always pop your pots to Nuke. Even that last auto, just not quite enough. So it will be 113 who falls instead.
Actually, 7 HP between Caps and dying in that exchange. You can see Labrov hovering here once again as Nuke jumps forward. There's the solar flare. Labrov is going to get caught by it. Zenith Blade there for the follow-up with the Aftershock. Labrov is quite tanky for a while, but when it expires, he's not that tanky anymore. Sent to sleep with the fishes by BDS.
Yeah, again, Nuke is just playing around the fact that whenever you use the Q as caps, cool, you've got no return damage. That's the spell you max. That's where all your DPS is. So finding these moments where you can jump in and constantly having Parus and 113 there, but they want to turn it.
Parus able to walk away for now. 113 coming in from the side, jumps onto Caps once again, Nuke going in, Caps with the twisted advance, the follow-up, they just have so much CC. Doesn't matter if you get away from the first one, you can't escape the subsequent crowd control. Parus will fall as well, so it is a 1-for-1 exchange, but your BDS, you are so happy with how this early game is going.
Yeah, and early Yuntal's picked up. You're going to start reeling through these towers on side lanes. There is at least G2 with that play able to get back over towards the Dragon as BDS are going on the reset, but 113 looking up towards that top side. 4 Void Grub's going to be pretty nice for a composition that definitely wants to try and play through towers, but at this point in time now, this is where they've got to go, right, Ice, you are opening mid, which you can see now, but we need to start moving Parus and 113 to sides to play around Nuke, start being able to take these towers, because at the moment, it's nice you're getting these leads, but all these structures are still standing, and this composition needs that space to work with.
Yeah, it's only a minute before the plates fall off as well, so you are leaving gold on the map if you're unable to take those in the early game. BDS have managed to pick up 2 or 3 so far, can't quite see that middle one. 3 in total, 1 in each lane. And problem is that G2 have relatively good wave clear. Well, the Kai'Sa is short range, BrokenBlade again short range. The Taliyah in the mid lane has a lot of wave clear to work with, and it's a bit difficult for BDS to actually get the push in.
Yeah, I think the difference here is though that like if you're a Ziggs, all you have to do is get to this part of the map and you are relevant because you've got that ultimate, right? So even though you can kind of clear out these waves a little bit easy as G2, where you are effective is very different to what BDS have to offer. So as Nuke is here, look at where Ziggs is.
Nice little sidestep from Nuke. I thought he may be a goner if Labrov had hit the hook. Would have pulled him under the tower, and then you have the depth charge follow-up with the concussive blows as well. That's CC. Twisted advance forward onto SkewMond, gets the knockback with a Nature's Grasp. There's the Mega Inferno Bomb as well. Hunsummer rooted by it, cleanses and flashes and gets over the solo player. SkewMond the next target here for BDS as they find one, and now with the TP coming in from BrokenBlade, Nuke's looking for more. Death charge on the tower, kind of instinct in. Nuke went too deep, but did BrokenBlade do the same? No! Because Caps is here on the Weaver's wall, and he weaves his way through BDS. 2 kills, 2 G2, they lose 1. They will lose some damage on this tower as well.
Nuke got greedy on the play, the man we've been praising all game long. Goes too deep, ends up getting knocked up with the depth charge, and crucially his damage isn't there for when BB comes back into this play. So it's a lovely sidestep, and this is what we're talking about, pushing mid, immediate roam from Ziggs to try and play around Nuke. And as BDS go for the play, it actually works out perfectly. 113 not only catches SkewMond, but Labrov and Hansama just barely on the back line, so that then Hansama has to end up using the cleanse. Here they get SkewMond, but watch Nuke, thinks he can get Labrov, but the hook buffered into the immediate depth charge and the flash away. Hansama kills him. Now you don't have that DPS for BrokenBlade, and Ice is stuck this entire time because of the Weaver's Wall from Caps. It was both of those DPS carries being taken out of the equation by the way G2 played that.
And as soon as you lose Nuke, you lose your consistent damage in a fight, right? Like, he is your AD carry, even if he's playing through the mid lane. Ziggs so cooldown gated. Obviously, as the game goes on, those cooldowns will get shorter with ability haste and with just leveling them up. But for now, Ice really gets 1 or 2 rotations off in a fight at most. G2 able to get a little bit of gold back in their pockets, but it's still looking balmy for BDS. 1,400 gold, their lead. 1,300 as I say that. Next Drake up in 2 minutes time, but there's a Rift Herald that might be a battlegrounds for these 2 teams.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for G2 to be the ones that set up first on us, because you still have this massive Tristana, the push from Ziggs, so I think they are always going to be playing second fiddle, but now not having that TP on BrokenBlade definitely makes things a little bit more difficult for him to involve himself, because I feel like a lot of the G2 composition kind of revolves around depth charge, BrokenBlade ultimate, then into Hansama finishing off the assassination attempt, but without him, I think G2 are kind of making the correct call. It's, hey, let's just try and make a play onto this bottom side of the map where BB is, rather than trying to play without him.
Yeah, just doing it a little bit slower than perhaps they would like. You can see Irrelevant very happy just to stand under the tower, and with the Labrov only just walking through the tri-bush. Now you have the enhanced recalls from the Rift Herald. Parus could path out bots if they want to add a little bit of protection, and that looks like exactly what he's doing. He's going to go into that bot side jungle, get a bit of vision. Ice very happy to stand very far back in the mid lane, just far from an absolute age away.
Yeah, it's kind of the benefits of these long-range mages. And then now, G2 trying to move up, so Nuke can't really get antsy on the top side either, letting Caps free farm this. And Caps should be in a spot where you can kind of just create this slow push now on this top side, and you're about 45 seconds out from Dragon, so you're now creating a point of pressure on the map the BDS have to respond to, but they do have 2 of those TPs available at the moment, and there's a Rift out in the middle. Yeah,
point of pressure from BDS as the Rift out charges in, the Satchel charge then follows up, and that's a very dead tower. No need even to put extra pressure on with that Rift out charging forward. BDS answering G2's pressure towards that top side, giving Nuke a little bit of safety as he cleans up this cannon. A couple of wards to make sure that Nuke isn't going to be caught out too easily. I think Caps and Labrov dodged the vision, but Nuke doesn't really need to step up here. He can just stay back. He knows that his support is backing. 113 is in the area and now starting to step forward with a 4-level advantage of that jungler over Labrov. I'm pretty sure they'd be happy to take 2v2. Wallop does get the stun into the Gnar. Irrelevant just trying to keep BrokenBlade at arm's distance as the Drake has been begun by G2.
Yeah, the double reset on mid means that they get push on mid for G2, and now they've been able to shift across over towards the Dragon. So it's going to be on BDS to try and retake the area. Labrov is not in position though.
It's also whether BDS don't need to force in. Nuke is still pushing through top. The problem is Caps has TP and Weaver's Wall, and they weren't actually far enough down that Nuke gets much more pressure towards that top lane. He's going to finish his recall, and BDS will just be left a little bit wanting around the setup for that Drake.
Yeah, and this is where it kind of you have to be so focused on getting these resets in early and trying to set up for fights later. Or sorry, trying to get yourself onto the objective first or trading for something on the map. With both Ice and Parus going for those resets, they kind of lost control of, oh, we can push mid, get control of river, maybe get control of topside jungle, but it does mean that they are able to, on the reset, move in towards this bottom side of the map.
I mean, that's how it's gone. Yeah, you have short fuse, you have Satchel, you have Demolish proc, you have so much. BDS realize G2 are resetting after taking the Drake. They step into the jungle, get a little bit of vision. It's like, okay, all's clear. Easy enough tower take. Tier 2s become a little bit trickier for them, though. They don't have as quick a route towards them, and G2 don't have to walk as far to get to those tier 2s. But with G2 having yet to take a tower so far this game, BDS are definitely winning that neutral game.
Yeah, and I think this is where, as long as you can keep Tristana on top side and Ice pushing in mid, you can use the strength of, hey, Hansama can't approach a wave of Ice, and Nuke is huge to just push in both mid and top, and then use that to get vision on this top side, look for a potential Atacon, and that's going to be in 30 seconds, but I still think your best options are just try and play for this deeper vision so you can threaten the tier 2 towers.
Totally agree with you. As we get towards sort of the late mid portions of the game, 20-minute mark, people are getting towards those 2 items. We haven't really seen any team fighting at all this game. It's been very much bouncing waves back, a couple of catches. Obviously, the top lane tier 2 fight was a little bit of a team fight, but more skirmish heavy. Do you think these teams are ever really going to want to team fight? Do you think we're going to see some front to backs?
I definitely think for BDS, yes. Like, this is a team that you have a lot of CC set up to enable the Ziggs, which is kind of the biggest issue for him. And then also Nuke can take over the fight. Irrelevant is fantastic as well in those situations, but it's about setting up the fights correctly. Like, if you're taking fights in like a choke point like this is perfect for a Ziggs, because you're all funneled into that one area. It's super easy to try and play for. But if BDS don't have control over these like mid waves to take fights in that position, then they kind of just have to give it up. And suddenly that's where G2 have angles for BrokenBlade to come in an assassin angle with Labrov. So it's very much about picking your fights correctly as BDS. And that's why you can see they're denying G2 any access into river here. They just want to make sure there's no vision for them at all.
Super important that they get mid prio, get wave prio, and then be the first on the objective. Really, exactly. That's what we're saying there, because then you can gate control zones, make sure the enemy team has to go through a specific pathway to get to you, and then it makes it a lot easier when everyone's clumped up. If G2 are able to get those wave controls, though, if they're the first ones into the river, that's where things become really tricky for BDS. So watch out for that as we get towards, you know, the next Dragon fight in 2 minutes' time.
And one of the crucial parts of that is going to be support resets, right? Because a lot of it is going to be if Parus is able to help Ice get push in mid, so he is safe, fantastic. But in a position kind of like this, where it's like, oh, well, you have Hansama who's by himself and Labrov isn't there, right? Well, you just can't really contest that wave state in as much position. So I think this is where, if you end up messing up your timing as a support, the whole thing can start to fall apart.
So we want to be on top of that. Currently 4 players through this mid lane, making sure they get some vision control towards this bot side jungle. Caps is clearing out waves on the top side. He bought himself a Seekers after completing the Seraph's Embrace, so a little bit of extra security for him, and who can blame him after how much he was camped in this early game. It's Yuntal Runans for Hansama though, going for that crit Kai'Sa build, which can still do a lot of work, but after 3 items, Jack Spectra says it falls off, so if G2 lose this game, we know what to blame. It's the crit Kai'Sa, obviously.
BDS though, moving over towards this Adakan, they're trying to just 2-man it at the moment. They don't really have control of the waves though, because Caps is pushed in top. There's 3 members of G2 on the mid wave, but looks like maybe they can just get this.
We did see a fast out automation go down. It was cleared out by BDS. It looks like, as you say, Labrov, like he's recalling.
They're just going to go for mid tower.
G2 will just look for that mid tower. Importantly, Caps can move down mid and Weaver's wall off BDS from this mid lane if they want to, but because of the Mega Inferno bomb, G2 do not have a wave to play with in mid. Good job from Ice to clear out that minion wave. And then, although SkewMond can tank a tower for a while, you get the backdoor bonus, the extra fortifications on towers if there aren't minions nearby.
But both Nuke and Irrelevant went to the bottom side of the map, so Ice has to take the long way around to try and get back towards mid. You can see he's a little skeptical about trying to immediately go towards that, but now everyone is kind of isolated from BDS, so Nuke TPing out, Irrelevant going to try and run it.
I mean, the problem is Drake's up now, right? Irrelevant's going to run away. He's going to hop on top of a minion, take a little bit of a taxi there. Depth charge coming out onto Irrelevant, trying to build up that Mega Gnar, but that's Killer Instinct in. And the shutdown goes over to Labrov. Caps knocked back with the Buster shots, and BDS took a long time on that Adakan and now have given up all pressure around this Drake.
Yeah, BDS, they over-indexed into trying to get another play on bottom side and cheat tempo, but they just needed to clear out mid wave, and G2 read it well. They immediately collapse onto them, and now they get the Dragon, they get the kill on Irrelevant, they get the TP from Nuke, and they just have so much control now on the map. Mid is so close to going down, top side as well. They're standing gold for them. They're about to take the gold lead first.
Yeah, and Baron's up in a minute's time as well, so putting Caps towards that top side, getting the push, taking that tower sets them up so well to get some vision towards that BDS blue side. For BDS, it's a slight misplay. It doesn't undo all of their good work in the early game. They are still at 2 items on Nuke, 2 items on Ice, almost getting towards those 3rd items as well. They're still a strong composition, and they still have strong members. The problem is, sometimes when a small thing happens like that and BrokenBlade goes in with a last breath, Nuke is dead. Things start to fall like dominoes was the end of my sentence, and it feels like that may have begun here for BDS.
Yeah, it's kind of slipped away from them at this stage. The fact that you now don't have control over the map makes it really difficult for you to try and play around those choke points. We're saying get control of the objectives first, and especially when you're losing members on side lanes. G2, I'm curious. I thought they were immediately going to move on towards mid lane because they've got the play. You see Gnar now on the bottom side of the map, but Labrov, yeah, going to be able to walk away from this. Looks like they just want to steal it with the blue buff instead.
I think part of the problem for G2 pushing through mid there is they didn't have a wave and Ice clears it out really quickly, right? Yeah. So making sure that the top wave is crashed in, taking away any of these objectives that you can, any of these jungle camps, is really strong. They're TPing in to try and play around the Baron. That would help them push into Ice. Obviously, the Baron up minions get that magic resist on them and don't take as much damage from Ice overall. TP coming in here from Irrelevant. He is still fully mini-Gnar as far as I can see. The Baron, Mega Inferno Bomb's not going to take it. Smite from SkewMond is good. Labrov's going to sacrifice himself here. Or can he flash across the wall to safety? Solo player hits 2, but it's SkewMond and BrokenBlade. Not really the targets you're looking for. Nature's Grass goes down. BrokenBlade falling low, but has that shield. Nuke now looking to jump across the wall, but can't get close enough. And all of G2 get out with their lives.
Good call from G2. Again, Nuke could use that teleport to try and escape on the last play. So when he was dead, was just not fast enough to get back out towards the Baron. And with these picks and slow plays, G2 managing to claw back into this game, and now very much in the lead.
Yeah, their sole point, 2,000 gold ahead. They have Baron for 2 minutes. There's a mid lane tower to take, and then all the 3 tier 2s as well. They have 2 items on their key carries. Caps going Zhonya's second, not just sitting on the Seekers. 2 items on BrokenBlade as well, who actually has been a large proportion of G2's damage generally throughout this split. I was looking at some of the numbers and I was really surprised because I saw Caps was sitting at about 21% of G2's total damage. BrokenBlade, 20 48%. First in the league is about 2 percentage points higher than any other top laner, and that damage per minute difference of 150, when most people are doing around 700 damage, that's really impressive from him so far.
Yeah, he has been absolutely incredible, and the fact that he's able to bring out things like the Gwen, the Jax is fantastic to see those DPS numbers, but he looks great on, you know, counter picks like the Galio, and I think it is a reason why BrokenBlade has very much changed the narrative from where he was like a couple of years ago, where it was
2
like...
years ago, it was
exactly.
like, eh?
Yeah, and now he is by far and away the best top laner that we have in the league, and it's just like, yes, you can argue with Kana as well, but it's just like, the man is rewritten his history, and it's so sick to see the player that he's become.
Yeah, from Schalke to TSM to now G2, he has constantly evolved, and definitely over the last couple of years has been one of G2's most consistent players and one of their carries overall. Tier 2 in the bot lane, the target here for G2. BDS a little bit slower on the response. You can see don't really have the range to get that wave cleared out before G2 just take the tower. We're also taking away the jungle, importantly. A 1.4k gold lead now for SkewMond, who's sitting over 200 CS, while 113 is down. He's only about 30 CS down, but that's going to extend over the next few minutes, I feel.
Yeah, the biggest issue is you're now getting the reset from G2 for the Soul. So what they're doing is using the last vestiges of this Baron buff to just get in, push in waves, keep BDS back in their base, and then they can fall back towards the river. And at that stage, it's very difficult for BDS to contest them, as there's going to be so many different flank angles G2 can try and play through. Plus, you're going to be face checking into Labrov. With some of these key carries, it can all fall apart very quickly. Caps now reset, I think, to finish off his item. Should have the Leandri's Anguish and now the TP back in.
Should come back in. There's the Leandri's. Still only 2 items on Nuke, and when you look at how tanky SkewMond is, it's going to take him a long time to work his way through that Mundo. A little bit of trading happening as Caps goes for the seismic shove. This is all about mid lane prio. Solar Flare hits onto BrokenBlade. There's the Mega Inferno Bomb follow-up, and he's on the back foot immediately. Irrelevant's building up that Mega Gnar as well with the Nature's Grass coming out. It's going to be hard for G2 to get out of this one, but SkewMond eats it up well. The rest of G2 able to hide behind that Mundo.
That could have gone so much worse. Parus sent the Zenith Blade into the wind wall of BrokenBlade, so didn't get the lockdown where I think BB would have fallen, and that could have been it. But now G2 trying to get those flanks we were talking about.
And it's the gating as well from BDS. You can see they're keeping SkewMond and Labrov at arm's length towards the top side. They'll secure the Drake. Now TP from BrokenBlade into the middle of the team. SkewMond pops the maximum doses, but he's ignited, so we won't be able to heal up too much. BrokenBlade in the midst of BDS is immediately blasted to Kingdom Come. Unsummer with a killer instinct, just trying to survive. He's the prey, not the predator this time as he dives away. Solar Flare gets the clip on Caps, but the follow-up not quite there. Good seismic shove on Parus to keep him away from that Zenith Blade.
Yeah, so they will get the Dragon, they will get a couple of kills, but this was a mess for G2. Actually, we're not even going to get the fight in the mid lane, but for this BDS, they just hold on to this bush, and it's an overextension from BrokenBlade trying to TP onto this. You do not have control of this area. Labrov and SkewMond are just constantly getting poked by Irrelevant and Nuke. And as the tower goes down, or sorry, the Dragon goes down, Irrelevant's in a perfect spot. Like, this is so much of an overextension. Caps isn't in position. Sam isn't there to follow, and the wind wall is going to do nothing in that position. Right as we are praising him, unfortunately, it goes a bit south for BB. And now BDS back, hoping to get a bit more control over this game, but still a 3k gold lead for G2.
It's 3 items for Ice, though. Rabadon's, Leandri's, and the Luden's Companion complete. He might not be playing an AD carry this game, but he's still got himself a gun. And Nuke trying to get up towards that Triforce. He must be very, not Triforce, Infinity Edge, sorry. He must be very close, has the BF Sword, the Pickaxe, and the Cloak of Agility in his inventory.
Yeah, I'm curious what Ice ends up building, because Crypt Bloom did get buffed on the last patch where he gets the 5 extra ability haste, but it's also just really nice on Ziggs, because you end up getting, 1, the ability haste, but 2, you guarantee basically hitting someone with all your AoE, so you're almost guaranteeing that heal. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going for the Crypt Bloom in this situation just to try and help out over the Void Staff.
Yeah, it might be nice. There's a little bit of magic resist on SkewMond at least, but not really much across the rest of the team. There's the Locket and the Merc Treads, but double Zerkers, the fact that Yasuo has to build those Berserker Greaves makes it that he is not as tanky as someone that can index towards those Merc Treads. Also means that if he's in the middle of the enemy team, doesn't have any of that tenacity to survive. Has just finished his Infinity Edge though, so BrokenBlade on that 3-item spike. Nuke has one of his own as well. So we're getting towards that point where, you know, as you say, G2 are in the lead, but 3k is negligible, I would say. at this point in the game. It's still a sum, and you're probably going to have an extra Vamp Scepter across all of your players, but at this point when you're at 3 items, that's a 2 to 5% boost.
I think the problem is it's like whoever blinks first dies.
Yes.
It's like you have so much burst power on both of these squads that it's whoever gets caught is just dead immediately. So it is very much a slow game, and that's why you're seeing like BDS just 5 men mid. Okay, we're gonna just poke a foot into the pool, see if it's okay. Okay, we got some vision. Okay, run away. We don't want to deal with G2 until we know where they are.
The frogs in the kettle.
Yes.
Understandable. Test the waters first, as Caps isn't testing anything. Goes in with the Weaver's Warpod stopwatch to avoid the Mega Inferno Bomb in the Solar Flare. Summer dived in with a Killer Instinct, and he did kill off Ice, but there's the Gnar from Irrelevant. He's going to jump across the wall. He'll kill off Labrov, and BDS find 2 of G2's engage.
They went so deep for Ice, but it just meant that Hans Sam had no one to help him out on the end of it. And Labrov falling down on the backline as well. G2 still have members up and available, as his Parus has gone back to base. They want to TP in. I don't know how much more they can make off this play, though.
They could look towards the Baron. The problem is SkewMond just walking in, of course. Doesn't have the flash. That's up in about a quarter of its cooldown. Caps with the seismic shove and BrokenBlade with that last breath could be enough. Nuke and 1-1-3 will start at the Baron. Irrelevant's going to come across as well. Parus trying to act. It's a bit of a bodyguard, a bit of a bouncer. SkewMond steps forward. BDS turn around towards them. Really trying to force G2 into making a decision here. Maybe taking the fight.
BDS just want to buy time for Ice. He's up in 3 seconds with TP.
SkewMond forced away. Look at the damage from Irrelevant. G2 can't even get close. Irrelevant and Parus keep them at bay. BDS secure the Baron. And now only 1,000 gold between these two teams.
I mean, this has turned out to be a banger game. Ice, you can see here, gets caught by Caps, flashes away from the flick back. Hans Sama then goes in for the execution, but he's so far in enemy lines that it's easy for BDS to turn around. Irrelevant with a big Gnar ult there as well, as Nuke is able to hop over the wall to help get himself to safety. But it's just, I think at this stage, like, I didn't expect this game to get to this point.
No.
I thought, like, G2, way outperforming BDS when it came to this split. And also, to be honest, BDS, they have never beaten G2 in a best of. Now, we are still a long way away from it, but I kind of expected this to be a bit of a walkover for G2, but BDS have played well in this game.
And credit to BDS, because they saw what G2 have done really well, which is early map movements and early tower takes. They've been about 2,000 gold on average ahead at 14 minutes, and they just negated all of that. They said, okay, we'll pick Ziggs, we'll pick Tristana, we'll play through mid, and then every time you try and get to another lane to get the damage down, we're going to be there first. SkewMond trying to walk in here, but immediately has to walk out, knocked back with the Buster Shot. The Drake secured by BDS. They'll be on the back foot now as SkewMond's looking for the chase with that maximum dosage. Labrov could go for a hook. Caps coming in from the side, but in the end, G2 can't find an avenue to approach.
They got the Dragon. BDS are going to be happy. A little bit of anti-synergy with the knockback from Nuke, right as Ice and Parus went for that double combo with the ultimate from the Ziggs, but still, you got the Dragon. They're going to walk it out. And it'll be a case of, at this stage, I think just trying to push in these waves, see if maybe you can take a tier 2, as again, BDS have insane tier taking potential, but it's more than likely going to stall out for another 4 minutes.
Very much agree. Let's switch our focus a little bit, because as we said, felt like G2 were winning the early game. They got to a good position. BDS have now started fighting back. What did G2 have to do from this position to actually get back into the game?
I think a lot of it is going to be how they try and play around Caps. Like, the downside of BDS is that if you can isolate someone like Ice, yes, he's got the satchel charge, but it's kind of a difficult situation to get out of that. So I think it's going to be a case of trying to wall Ice off and look for these plays, but you can see them trying to overload those windows to see if they can find the pick, but it is opening up for BDS then to get this mid lane turret. Now with the push in mid, it will be answered by BrokenBlade, but G2 going to kind of be forced to move mid, which then opens up BDS once more to try and put pressure top. Now, they still need the wave, but this is where, as you can see, yeah, it's just trying to find these isolated picks for G2.
I do feel like I kind of cast a curse BrokenBlade this game. Talking about how much pressure he's had, how well he's done, the leads he's been developing, and he's been a negligible impact on this game, I would say. Bad TPs and really able to control the lane. He talked about trying to isolate Ice. Seismic shove not going to hit him, but Parus is the target. SkewMond steps in front of that Nature's Grasp, and Nuke was able to get away in time, so he can just push through that bot side. G2 still unable to find that engage.
Yeah, and I think the reason that BrokenBlade hasn't had the impacts is that G2 haven't really been able to set up for the fights that matter, right? Yeah. What they really want is Labrov in a position where he can press the R button on ice or on towards nuke, and then that's what gains BrokenBlade access to fight, where he's able to follow up with the ultimate, he locks a key carry up, Hansama assassinates with him. It's like that 1-2-3 combo that they really want to play for, but with the way BDS have been going for these fights, it's get control of mid, force G2 in a position where they don't really have this positioning for Labrov, and it's making it tough for G2 to play out the composition.
Also respect from BDS. Like, you could see here, like, Hansama's walking down towards the bottom side, Labrov is hovering in river. If Irrelevant says, I want one extra wave, he dies there, right? Or at least he gets collapsed on, probably has to burn summoners, right? But because Nuke mostly has been very respectful, and Irrelevant's been very respectful in these side lanes, G2 never have that opportunity to use the long range of the Weaver's Wall and the long range of the Killer Instinct to actually isolate someone. And so they're diving into basically the middle of BDS and trying to isolate people with a geometrized, that's not a word.
They foundationalize your geometrizations,
a geometry Weaver's Wall, which is very difficult to do. Even here, Nuke, hits the wave, immediately walks away, knows that this side of the map doesn't belong to them. And with the Baron up in a minute 30 and the Infernal Soul for either team up in a minute 40, as you say, that's likely where we're going to see the next bit of action.
I do think BDS are being a little over careful though, because at this stage, like, your Tristana should murder these waves. If Caps walks up to him, in theory, you should just be able to blow him out of the water with the amount of damage that Nuke has. And it kind of feels like they're only just catching the waves a little late, and it's giving a lot of space to G2 to try and set up a fight as they would like to. So for BDS, again, I think a huge amount of this is 1-1-3 and Parus kind of understanding where they need to be positioned. But I don't think there's a huge amount of communication on, like, hey, I'm going to aggress onto this wave, I need you to cover. You can see them around ice at the moment, but look at where Nuke is on the map. He kind of needs the help if he wants to try and attack this next wave.
You have to remember, this isn't the BDS of last year or even the year before, right? Their team fighting hasn't been as good. Their late game hasn't been as good as in previous years. So a little bit of tentativeness is to be expected. The question is, can they overcome that hurdle, that mental hurdle for these next few minutes? Because it does feel like the next fight could just determine the game, right? If you get a Soul, if you get a Baron, if you get one, you're likely to get the other. Drake up in 30 seconds time. Gnar about to time out here for Irrelevant as well. He'll want to build up that Gnar bar once again. BrokenBlade is hovering in the bush in bot, not going to shove too hard. Maybe when they see Irrelevant, he'll go for it, but you do, as we've talked about so much this game, want this mid lane control if you're G2, as do BDS. So BrokenBlade is going to stay in bot. Caps is up towards the top side. He's just pushed out a wave. He's got a teleport. BrokenBlade, Caps is going to TP in.
Yeah. This is a mistake. Irrelevant should have not have gone for the red buff. He should have been pushing out that wave into a slow push so then they can test on towards the dragon. But now, you've got two. That's your inhibitor gone.
I mean, it's your Nexus gone if no one gets back in time. Irrelevant is there right now. Does have the TP. The Drake has been begun by BDS, but BrokenBlade and Caps are on the Nexus towers. BrokenBlade down to half HP. Solar Flare's going to land. Infernal Soul secured for BDS, but they're on the run. As Labrov lands the hook onto Parus, BrokenBlade and Caps unable to get much more as Nuke's going to teleport in. Hansama dived into the backline, pops the cleanser, doesn't go pop himself. He survives another good hook from Labrov and Parus, and Ice are able to kill off Hansama. Meanwhile, Caps and BrokenBlade are dead. BDS have found everything they wanted as G2 tried to split them up, but only SkewMond stands still as BDS collapse on him. It's an ace for nil, an Infernal Soul, and the game for BDS.
Irrelevant held his ultimate long enough to smash Caps into the wall the second he came out as Anya's, and now BDS are looking to smash down these towers as well and finish out this game.
And G2, they tried to pull something tricksy on BDS, but Irrelevant and Nuke held strong. They held the line, and with the Infernal Souls at their backs, were able to win both fights out. BDS will take the Nexus Towers, and what is in one hell of a shocker, they'll take game one as well.
And in the fashion they did it as well is incredible.